I got this in before the end of February, so it's my Black History Month movie and it's my Valentine's movie. 2 in 1. What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Crispy back again with another video. And today we are reviewing Cinderella. Specifically, Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella. Now, I don't know about you guys, but honestly, I didn't even know the actual name, like the Robert and the Hammerstein one. I did not know that. It didn't occur to me until later when I watched it, because, you know, Disney just put it on as the on their Plus. I don't know why, but, you know, I was happy to see it. I didn't know about it, so that's something new to me. It's a 1997 movie, so I am actually older than this movie. It is a Walt Disney television production, and it is an hour and 28 minutes long. Produced by Robert Isakov, and its casting, as you can tell, is star-studded. Like, look at that! Look at that! So it has Brandy as Cinderella, Whitney Houston as the fairy godmother, Paloma Matalba as Prince Christopher, Bernadette Peters as the evil stepmother, Whoopi Goldberg as Queen Constantina, Victor Garber as King Maximilian, and Jason Alexander as Lionel. Like, can you get any better than that? If you can't tell, this is one of my favorite movies. Like, I actually have the VHS. Who has a VHS anymore? Well, I do. I got the VHS. And I will actually, instead of, you know, reading off of my computer like I normally do and finding a movie description that's short and sweet, I'm going to actually read off of this. So, bear with me. A spectacular new Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella from Disney. A prince, a pumpkin, glass slipper, history's most enduring fairy tale returns with a thoroughly modern twist. Beautifully produced and featuring an all-star cast, Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella shimmers to life in the most spectacular production ever of the classic musical, including 3 additional Rodgers and Hammerstein songs exclusive to the special Disney presentation. Pop sensation Brandy, TV's Moesha, stars as the beautiful Cinderella, who suffers the torment of her wicked stepmother, Bernadette Peters, and spoiled stepsisters. Cinderella dreams of the impossible, going to the ball and dancing with the prince. Her impossible dream is realized when her fairy godmother, Whitney Houston, teaches her that with positive thinking and belief in herself, impossible things happen every day. Impossible for a plain yellow pumpkin to become a horse and carriage. Impossible. I love that song. Also starring Jason Alexander from TV Seinfeld and Whoopi Goldberg from Sister Act, Disney's sparkling new version of Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella promises to be an instant classic. Now you can relive the magic anytime you wish, and I do with this. And also Disney Plus. Gotta love having Disney Plus on here because it is great. Now, unfortunately, I have to review you. Oh, look at that! It has a little sticker on it. Part of the magic of the wonderful world of Disney. I might need to go and check and see how many of my other VHSs have this sticker. It's pretty cool, though. Either way, so this is the VHS. Let you guys see it. Let you see the back. One of my prized possessions from, you know, childhood. So, let's review this movie. This movie starts with Whitney Houston singing one of the most memorable songs from my childhood and captivating the world with a poem of encouragement. Now, what would have been smart is for me to write that down so that way I could recite it. But I was not smart today. Now, immediately, this movie has so much more culture than any of its predecessors, or really any of the ones that are happening today. Like, there was a new one, 3 years ago? I've actually never seen it, but I can already tell you that it does not have as much culture as this movie right here. with Brandy and them doing a musical number and Paloa doing all that. Like this movie sets a tone. And being that it's in 1997, it's even better because a lot of the tolerance wasn't, let's say, accepted in that time period. Which I'm saying that time period like I'm old. I'm not. But if you lived in that day, you know that a lot has changed within the past 24 years. Well, 23 years. And, this movie shows the start of that progression. Before it was pushed down our throats in other productions, this movie introduced a generation to racial diversity. Black, white, an American Filipino, which is Prince Christopher, by the way. This movie threw caution to the wind and said that every person is going to be an amazing actor in this. It doesn't matter what race you are. You can be amazing and you will be amazing. Something I found funny was back in the day whenever I first watched this movie, it was really funny how the two stepsisters were arguing with one another because, again, these were grown women acting like spoiled brats. But then you look at it today and it's kind of like, these kids act the exact same way out here. Like, this is normal at this point. And it's kind of like, wow. You never would have thought about it because, it's always a thing of Cinderella's stepsisters are evil, wicked, and, spoiled rotten. But it's like, wow, nowadays, that's the norm. Like, that's a whole thing that I was thinking about at that time. And it was a weird thought. Now, going through this movie, whenever they were going through the first number, I was looking at Brandy's braids. And whoever did that, those braids were impeccable. And also whoever did the costumes and did the makeup for like Paloa and everybody else, like that, man, these are some beautiful people. That's exactly what I was thinking as I was watching this. I'm like, man, these are some really beautiful people. Something that was very, not sprinkled, but like was a prominent part of this movie was Brandy and her independence, and also how, it kind of taught a generation how to actually treat women, because a big thing with Disney was, princess. And every girl, at least every girl that I met at the time, wanted to be treated like a princess. But Brandy said, no, I don't want to be treated like a princess. I want to be treated with respect and kindness. And, it was the interaction between Paloa and Brandy was very real. Like, it was interestingly weird. Not weird, but interestingly real. He was very awkward. He was honest. And, it was one of those things like, this is actually how this probably would go in that time period, negating the fact that, negating the fact of the age difference and the, skin tone difference and all that other stuff. Like, this is probably how it would actually go. Like, so Jason Alexander, who played Lionel, is one of my favorite actors in this entire movie. Like, he plays the sassy butler so well. Like, he plays it so well. He gets trampled on. He, is doing his job, and he's just, he's trying, and everyone's, pushing him around, but he still gets some laughs and like things that he does, like hanging on to the what is it? The oh man, what is it? I forgot what it's called, but it's literally like metal that holds on to flowers, and you're under it when you're getting married and stuff like that. When they were doing the princess having a ball scene, like just wow, the amount. Also, not congrats, but just props to all the people that did those choreographic numbers, because that looked like it took a lot. Like, just being able to move around and act like you're actually doing this, like you're about to drop the cake, and then dancing with geese on your shoulders, or going through, and what was another one, going through and remembering all your lines, because I think one of the things that I had on here was that their names, but I'll get to that in a second. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was Whoopi. She has some of the most amazing fashion in this movie. Like, all the colors and everything just matched, and it, brought out a lot of her, and it was just really nice. And she was really funny. Some of the noises that she made whenever she was talking to I think to either both Lionel and to Maximilian was kind of funny. Like, I'm like, I can't even do it right. It's so high pitched. It's just, it had me rolling the entire time. Like, the entire time she was on camera, I was just laughing. It was so funny. One of the plot points in this movie was when Whoopi, as Queen Constantina, pretty much put out a royal decree that, the prince was giving a ball. And, that was something I had to pause it and actually think about it. Like, in that time period, this was probably the best thing that Paloa, as Prince Christopher, could have actually asked for, because marriages were political. This thing wasn't a thing of you're falling in love. It was you marry someone so that way you can, like they say, have a child, and so that way they can continue their lives. But also, to get money, to get power, to get land, like these were things that it was done. And for the fact that, Queen Constantina and King Maximilian were able to be like, no, we're gonna have our son, actually marry someone for, their beauty, their love, his love, all that fun stuff. And, they gave him a lot of time, and just being like, okay, we're going to throwing you a ball is probably the best thing, because they're trying to force it on you, but it's more like, look at the time period. Like, back, I have it a little bit farther, but this was a very stressful time period. So this is probably the best that he could ask for. Okay, so I wrote down these names, and it was really funny because as a kid, I didn't really get it. But the names of these royals are really, really long. Like, I knew that they were long names, but it's like, wow. Like, looking at it now after, 10 years of not looking at it, this is a long name. I'll go through them real quick. His Royal Highness Christopher Rupert, Windermere Vladimir, Carl Alexander, Francis Reginald, Lancelot Herman, Gregory James. That is that man's full name. And don't ask me to repeat it, because I couldn't. If I probably could, but I'm not going to. Like, the next one is like Queen Constantina. Queen Constantina, Charlotte, my bad. Queen Constantina, Charlotte, Erbatrude, Guinevere, Macy, Margaret, Anne. And then, like, the king. Where am I at? King Maximilian, Godfrey, Ladislas, Leopold, Sidney, Frederick, John. Who came up with these names? Like, they're just like, oh, let's throw as many first names as we possibly can at these people and see what sticks. Well, they all stuck. That entire scene was just like, wow, you had to memorize these names. You had to memorize the way that it was, because like da 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 da. Like, how are you gonna get the names in there and you're just going through doing the dance numbers and everything? That took probably years to remember all that and to do it properly. Like that, Jason Alexander is just an amazing actor in this movie. I cannot say that enough. Okay, so I'm going to read from my computer, so bear with me. But from the wonderful song and dance number, I can see how where the kingdom is located. It's located towards or in Champagne, France, which, according to the time period when most of this food was to be popular, I concluded that this was during the reign of King Louis the 16th. And that's who Maximilian is supposed to be. Right before the French Revolution, and when the House of Bourbon would have been overthrown. So it's right before all of this. putting the movie set in the mid to late 1700s, which is probably why Lionel was so upset at the prince running off, as rumors of war would have been rising during this time. And once you actually look at it, that actually makes a lot of sense. Like I said before, like this was a really dangerous time, and then throwing balls and doing this and everything, like people were talking about war and overthrowing the king and overthrowing the monarchy. Like, of course, your footman and the people that actually do love you are going to be scared. Diving a little deeper, a little later, when Cinderella is having the banter between her and her stepmom, you really have to look at it, but there might be only two things that could actually be taken away from here. And this might be pulling a little bit, or it might be a conspiracy, but I have to honestly think about it. Either the father died very recently, or the stepmother killed him. Judging by what she said, when she said to Cinderella, how you don't need to cling to the past, like the way that she said it made me really think that it was more leaning towards, yeah, she probably killed him. Later in the movie, when the girls are getting ready for the ball, the quote, "We hide our flaws until after the wedding," is said. Honestly, this is a very pressured look at most relationships. Always having to put your A game until you've got married and you show your true self. But Cinderella comes in with a dose of reality and explains how he should love you for you, and that the stepmother says, you're not marrying for love. That's that time. That's the time period. You don't marry for love. You marry for power. You marry for wealth. You marry for land. These are the things that you marry for, because it is not only that, she's married for love before and it backfired on her. So the way that I'm thinking, and then me going into kind of Super Carlin Brothers kind of conspiracy type thing, is that the stepmother had two other husbands. Looking at the way that the sisters are of different races, either there was an adoption or there were two other husbands, which I would assume so. So then by that thing, I would assume that she fell in love with the first one. When falling in love with the first one probably did something bad to her, either abused her or something of that nature, and she found out that love wasn't real. And when he died, she, resented men. But then she went back and, gave it another chance and had another daughter. And either the same thing happened, or, just something of that nature, to where she feels whenever she falls in love with people that they're going to leave, they're going to hurt her, or, any of these things, which, that's where that song comes from. Falling in love with love is for the make-believe. Falling in love with love is playing the fool. Look at that. Like, she's a victim here. And I'm not saying that the way that she's acting justifies the fact of how she treats Cinderella, but I'm just saying, like, look at that. That's an interesting way of thinking about it. Like, she may have killed Cinderella's father, or he died and there wasn't any foul play in it, and she's just trying to prepare Cinderella and her daughters for the way that the world is. Like, these men aren't out here for love. They're out here for three things: money, power, and sex. That may have been a little too far, but regardless, I'm still gonna put it in. So the next thing would be the folly lolly diddly dee fiddly faddly foodle. All the people in the world are crazy in the noodle. That may not have been the exact one, but I'm gonna go with it. This brings us to the Whitney Houston as the fairy godmother, and I'm telling you, she rocked this. Look at this. Look at this. This is rocking it right here. Now, Brandy, of course, she's gorgeous. But look at Whitney. Like, look at all that. Like, she rocks it on stage. And when she comes in as the fairy godmother, she brings in, how did I say it? She brings to the stage wisdom, care, and self-empowerment. Reminded me a lot of my grandmother and, how she is with me. And then she does the best thing. She sings Impossible. Impossible by Whitney Houston of 1997. Probably the most influential song of my childhood. Jumpstarting my want to make the world better the only way I know how. And, you know, it has a special place in my heart, you know? Just thinking about it. But the world is full of zanies and fools who don't believe in sensible rules and won't believe what sensible people say. And because those daft and dewy-eyed I don't keep building up impossible hopes, impossible things are happening every day. If you haven't noticed, I love singing. Like, especially songs like those, it's just great because you actually go down it. Like, the world is full of zanies and fools. Zanies meaning an eccentric or erratic person, and fools. The world is full of eccentric fools. And then it goes on to say how they won't listen to sensible rules, and they won't listen to what sensible people say. And because of these people and having impossible hopes, these impossible hopes make impossible things happen. Like, does that not hit your heart right there? Like, for real. Zany fools. Like, she straight up calls people, you know, who have these visions and these wants out of life and, you know, things, eccentric fools. But not just eccentric fools. Like, she's not dissing anybody. She's saying these people who are called fools, these people who the world deems to not understand what sensible means are, and won't listen to people who say quote unquote sensible things. Their eyes, their dreams, their ambition is what makes the impossible possible. Now, I don't know what's better than that. If you don't get pumped up by that, nothing's gonna pump you up. Which honestly is something that I want to get into next. Like, Whitney embodies the God mentality. And I'm not saying that in a blasphemic way like she is God, but more in the sense that you can wish all you want, but God's not going to do for you what you can do for yourself. Only what seems impossible and the tools you'll need to make it a reality will he actually give you. He'll only give you what looks impossible, and he'll give you the tools to make it a reality. And then he'll be your biggest cheerleader. Like, that's what Whitney was as a fairy godmother. And, you know, that's something that I really like about this. And with a lot of the things of how, at least from what I've seen, a lot of African Americans having a Christianic background, like, this really hits home. This really does hit home. The next part of it is when we enter the ballroom, and this, I think, is where everyone's faces actually like shine, because as you enter, you know, you see Paloa going like, ooh, like he's tired and everything. But if you look around and you actually look at every person in the room, like, they have a very distinguished type of face. Like, it's not all the same of happy, 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 happy. It's kind of like exuberant or excited or fearful or things like that. But it's all, you know, just in lieu of, you know, them about to go see the prince. And it actually shows a lot. And being that this movie was originally a play, you can kind of see it, which I want to give props to it, not only in the way that it does what it does with its acting and with its costumes and stuff like that, but also its singing. Like, this movie, you don't think it's pre-done. You look at it and you see them singing it. Like, you feel them singing every note. And I don't know all of what went into this movie, but, you know, it may have been recorded, but it doesn't look it. It feels as if, like, you're actually in the play and you're watching them perform and, you know, losing breath, catching a breath, saying things. You feel that, you see that, and I give them props on making this movie more of a realistic play adaptation than anything I've ever seen. Another funny moment happened during this part of the movie when the stepmother is trying to get Lionel to push her daughters a little forward so that way they can get their chance to meet the prince and possibly, you know, get married and everything else. She flirts with Lionel, and it's funny because he says he says the most funniest yeah. He says the funniest line in the entire movie, and I'm gonna quote it. It says, "I honestly wish there was something between us." She says, "Really?" And he says, "Yes, a continent." I'm like, yo, this man's a savage. Like, he's trampled on by all the royal family, but no one else can trample over him. That's just funny. It really is funny because you literally see him later when he's, you know, tossing girls to the prince, and then, you know, completely just falls out, and he literally gets stepped on. Like, this man is a footman to the royal family, and which puts him at really a high stature. But it's like everyone above him can whatchamacallit, can run him over, but like I said, anyone below him, no. He will not stand for it. And that's something that I found very comedic. This movie really does hit a lot of the negative ways people view marriage. One of which being that a woman is meant to be a devoted servant to a man. But in reality, no one needs a slave. What they need is someone they can be themselves around and talk honestly with. And, you know, growing up with these types of movies, I'm really not surprised on how this made me view a lot of my romantic relationships. And I wonder if I'm the only one who looks at it this way. Like, I grew up with these movies, not just Cinderella, but like Aladdin and stuff like that. Like, a lot of movies that it's still conform to the look of women being kind of submissive and everything else, but slowly but surely growing independence and being their own person and not needing a man, but, you know, wanting love and showing love, like explaining what love is. And it's a hard thing to do. And so with Disney, you know, doing it for kids and me being said kid, you know, I'm not surprised on this is kind of how I view what love should be. I know it's not all dandies and roses, but, you know, something like this where the core thing is, you know, you should love someone because you love them. That was one of the songs. Do you love her because she's wonderful, or is she wonderful because you love her? Like, these are the things that make you go, And it really did make me go, for a long time. And I was like, man, I really do look at a lot of my relationships in this way, which a lot of people will say, like, you're looking at it through a rose-colored glass or whatever of that nature. It's like, no, I want to love somebody for love. I want to think they are wonderful, not only because I love them, but because I love them, they are wonderful to me. This is my love. And like I said, it's not going to be all roses and pixie sticks forever. Not even forever, but just every day. But overall, it's something stronger. And I'm not good at explaining it, so I'm not going to try. But I want to know, you know, tell me down in the comments. Do any of you guys feel this way? Have any of you guys grown up with these movies and looked at it the same way? Let me know. Speaking of that song, Whoopi's reprise of it is the embodiment of a mother's worry. No matter how much she wants him to marry someone, she still wants him to pick someone who she can really be happy, who he can really be happy with. Because again, looking back in the back of the movie, when Paloa was talking to, when Prince Christopher was talking to his parents, he said, "Didn't you guys fall in love and, you know, get married and everything?" And they looked at each other and, you know, with the thing of, not really, because again, during this time period, marriage wasn't like that. So this is a luxury that he's getting. But that's the way that Whoopi kind of, the way, again, I'm going back not even a few seconds ago that I said this, but it really does hit home. Do you love her because she's wonderful, or is she wonderful because you love her? And the way that she says it, her body language, the way that she projects, like, all this is saying, you just met this woman. Like, falling in love in the first instance doesn't make any sense. It's not sensible. Again, bringing it right back to Impossible. People don't listen to sensible things, and impossible happens every day. And this was one of those times. But, as a parent, that is probably one of the biggest worries of a parent with their kid dating or marrying or whatever, is to find someone that they not only love because they're a wonderful person, but they're also wonderful to them because they love them. I'm gonna let that sink in for a little bit. The last thing that I want to talk about, and it's not even a talk about, is literally just a comment. And this is for every Cinderella movie. Why? No one in this kingdom has the same shoe size. That's in the entire point of a shoe company, is to put the same shoe sizes in a shoe place. Like, I guess it makes sense that it conformed to her foot. I guess that makes sense. But in the same breath, it's kind of like, no one fit this shoe. No one even came close to fitting this shoe. This was a whole kingdom that went through this, and no one could fit this shoe. I don't think so. But either way, that is my review of Cinderella, Roger and Hammerstein's version. What will I give it? I'm giving it a 9.8. I know I've been giving a lot of point systems here, like 9 point this, 9 point that, 10. I haven't even given it 10 yet. But honestly, like, this compared to something like I just did Space Jam, this was more of a cultural thing. Like, Looney Tunes was something that I just enjoyed. It was fun. I loved it as a bad movie and everything. But this is an amazing movie. It's not a good movie. It's an amazing movie. This movie does a lot with all of what it had, with plays and its songs and its dance and everything else. Like, for this time period, they did an amazing job. And I'm not going to critique it just because, I don't like the way the CGI is. Well, the CGI wasn't good at the time. But the story has more depth than any other Cinderella movie that has been, or what has been made since or before. So, again, better. Whitney Houston, better. Brandy as Cinderella, better. Like, this is my review. This is my opinion. This movie is the best Cinderella movie out there. I'm not going to say anything else about it. 9.8. Subscribe, like, all that stuff. Let me know what you think in the comments. This is Crispy out. Happy belated Valentines. Happy Mardi Gras. Happy, Ash Wednesday. All that fun stuff. Belated. And I'll see you guys on the next video.